There was no explosion, no warning signs. No one had time to run. It was an ordinary night in the mountains of Cameroon. People went to sleep like they always did. But the next morning, more than 1,700 people never woke up. Livestock lay scattered, dead. No wounds, no signs of struggle, only silence. A silence so terrifying that for hours no one could understand what had happened. What could kill an entire village without leaving a single trace? Not war, not disease, not poison, no attacker, nothing visible. Just one thing, very close by. A quiet lake, no waves, no sound. But beneath its surface was something capable of killing an entire village in just minutes. Lake Nyos lies in northwestern Cameroon, hidden within a rugged landscape where ancient mountain ridges weave through dense, dark green forests stretching to the horizon. It was never a prominent point on the world map, nor a place that drew much scientific attention for a long time. It was simply a lake resting inside the crater of a volcano that had gone extinct thousands of years ago, a geological remnant that seemed to have fallen into a permanent sleep. The surface of the lake is usually still, almost without a ripple. In the early morning, a thin layer of mist hovers above the water, creating a scene so calm it feels almost unreal. Surrounding the lake are gentle hills where local people live in small villages, isolated from the outside world. Life here moves slowly and simply. They raise livestock, farm the fertile land, and draw water from the lake for their daily needs. There were no signs that this place was dangerous. Lake Nyos is not the largest, not the deepest, and it has no notable history of natural disasters. It doesn't emit smoke, there's no smell of sulfur, and it doesn't bubble like other active volcanic lakes. To the naked eye, it's just an ordinary lake, if anything, more peaceful and beautiful than most. Because of that, generation after generation came to fully trust the stability of this place. Children played along the shore, livestock drank from the water, and life went on without any fear of a hidden threat. The lake wasn't just part of the landscape, it was part of life itself. But what no one knew was that beneath that calm surface, an invisible process had been quietly unfolding. No sound, no signs, no warning. A slow buildup lasting for years, even decades, as if the lake was holding something no one could see. And then, on the night of August 21st, 1986, that generations-long peace came to an end. Not with a loud explosion, not with a violent tremor, but with something almost impossible to notice, until it was far too late.
The moon is full tonight.
That night, nothing seemed unusual. No earthquake, no storm, not even a strong wind. There were no signs of any disaster people would normally recognize. The sky was as dark as any other night. The lake remained perfectly still. The surrounding villages drifted into sleep as usual. No worry, no sense of danger. But then, around midnight, some of the survivors later said that something had happened. They heard a low, distant sound. Not clear, not sharp, like an explosion muffled deep underground, or like some massive pressure suddenly released, but not strong enough to create a shockwave. After that sound, everything went quiet again. No light, no shaking. Just a change almost impossible to notice. A layer of air, cold, heavy, and damp, began to spread across the area. It didn't move fast. It didn't crash in like a storm. It flowed, silently, slowly, following the shape of the land. The low valleys were the first to be reached. No one noticed. No one had time to understand what was happening. Those who were sleeping never woke up again. No sudden movement, no panic. Those who were still awake, walking, talking, or tending to livestock, suddenly felt dizzy. Within minutes, they collapsed. There were no cries for help, no signs of struggle. It was as if their bodies simply stopped working. Livestock died in large numbers, scattered across the fields. Birds didn't fly, dogs didn't bark. A complete, absolute silence covered the entire area. Strangely, the trees remained untouched. No burning, no broken branches. Homes were still intact, no signs of destruction. Everything looked as if time had frozen in an invisible moment. The next morning, people from nearby villages who had not been affected began to enter the area. They expected to find something, an accident, a disease, some clear explanation. But what they saw was unlike anything they had ever known. Empty roads, houses left open, but no one inside. Bodies lying still, wherever they had fallen. No sound, no movement, just a village where life had completely disappeared. And the most terrifying part, no one could explain what had happened that night. At first, every possible explanation was considered. Rescue teams and Cameroonian authorities, along with international experts, began investigating the site just days after the disaster. In 1986, with the Cold War not yet over, some early suspicions even took on a geopolitical tone. People wondered if this might not be a natural event at all. Food poisoning, toxic gas released by human activity, even chemical weapons. Every theory was taken seriously. Some believed the water supply had been contaminated. Others suspected a chemical leak. And in those chaotic early days, many feared it could have been a secret military test. But the deeper the investigation went, the more each theory began to fall apart. There were no burn marks, no signs of a strong chemical reaction, no traces of artificial toxins in the soil or water samples. More importantly, there were no signs of disease. The victims showed no prolonged symptoms, no fever, no pain. They simply lost consciousness and died. This forced scientists to pause, because what they were seeing didn't match any known type of disaster. But the strangest clue of all came from the locations of the survivors. When the affected area was mapped out, a pattern began to emerge, one that completely changed the direction of the investigation. The survivors were usually those at higher elevations, on hills, on mountain slopes, or in areas of raised terrain. Meanwhile, those in lower areas, valleys near the lake, or in depressions, were almost entirely wiped out, with almost no exceptions. This is not how a disease spreads, and it doesn't resemble an explosion or a chemical release either. If it were a toxic gas in the air, it would have dispersed more evenly. If it were a weapon, there would have been clearer evidence. But here, whatever killed them seemed to move with the landscape. It flowed downward, it filled the low-lying areas, and it stayed there, like water, but invisible, colorless, odorless, leaving no trace behind. This discovery forced scientists to consider an entirely new hypothesis, that whatever caused the disaster did not come from humans, but from the lake itself. And if that were true, then Lake Nyos was not just an ordinary lake. It was a system, silently accumulating something. And when released, it followed rules that humans had never encountered before. Finally, after weeks of investigation, scientists reached a conclusion that had almost never been documented on such a large scale before. A phenomenon known as a limnic eruption, a lake gas eruption. Lake Nyos was not an ordinary lake. It sits on top of an ancient volcanic region where carbon dioxide, CO2, continuously seeps up from deep underground. Under normal conditions, this gas would rise to the surface and dissipate. But here, the pressure of the deep water and the low temperatures kept the CO2 trapped. Instead of escaping, it dissolved into the deep layers of the lake, gradually building up over time, like gas compressed inside a sealed soda bottle. For years, even decades, this process continued in complete silence. No color, no smell, no warning signs. From the outside, the lake looked as calm as ever, but beneath the surface, pressure was increasing little by little, until a triggering event occurred. It could have been a small landslide at the bottom of the lake, strong winds disturbing the water layers, or a sudden change in temperature, just a minor disturbance. and the entire system became unstable. The pressure dropped suddenly, and the dissolved CO2 began to escape at extreme speed. Not in small bubbles, but as a massive volume of gas released almost all at once. An eruption, without fire, without sound. Just a physical process, unfolding in complete silence. And from that moment, the deadly gas cloud began to form. When the CO2 was released, it formed a massive gas cloud, spread out across the surface of the lake, and poured into the surrounding valleys. But what made it so dangerous was not its size. It was how it moved, because CO2 is heavier than air. It doesn't rise, it doesn't disperse evenly. It flows downward like an invisible liquid, silent, slow, but impossible to escape. People in low-lying areas were the first to be affected, and they had no chance. CO2 is not toxic in the usual sense. It doesn't poison the body. It simply replaces oxygen. When you inhale it, there's no sense of danger, no smell, no warning. There is nothing to alert you. You keep breathing, but there is no oxygen. After just a few breaths, you begin to lose consciousness. No pain, no panic. You don't run because you don't know you need to, and then it's over, in silence. This is what makes Lake Nyos so terrifying. Not that it kills quickly, but that you never realize you're dying. After the 1986 disaster, Lake Nyos was no longer seen as an ordinary lake by scientists. Researchers quickly realized that, without intervention, the tragedy could happen again. And next time, it could be even worse. To prevent that, they implemented a solution that had never been used before. Special pipes were installed, stretching from the surface down into the deep layers of the lake. Their function is simple, but critically important. Slowly release CO2 to the surface. Reduce the pressure building at the bottom. Prevent a sudden gas eruption. Small amounts of gas are released every day instead of being trapped and silently accumulating. Today, Lake Nyos is continuously monitored. Gas levels, temperature, pressure. Everything is tracked. It all seems under control. But that's only part of the story, because Lake Nyos is not the only case. Around the world, there are other lakes sitting on similar geological foundations. Deep lakes, volcanic lakes, lakes that are quietly accumulating gas at their depths. Colorless, odorless, no warning signs. They remain still. They appear completely harmless. And perhaps, right now, they are holding beneath their surface a massive amount of gas, waiting for a single moment to be released. Not every danger comes from something you can see. Sometimes the most dangerous thing is what lies silently just beneath the surface.